This is it. This is fucking it. I had enough of this, so we're gonna end this one way or another. We are not gonna stop until the story is finished. So, with that in mind, let's see if we can conclude with the final chapter. Maybe just a final recording overall. It might probably be long, it might probably be normal, who knows. But I am not gonna stop until we conclude the second story arc with Nagashi. I think I had enough of this crazy runaround bullshit. So, bearing that in mind, we're gonna continue, and we're not stopping. We are not gonna fucking stop. Keiichi? Just leave him alone. His friends were missing. It must be really hard for him. Normally my dad will never show me any consideration, but this time he did. Shouldn't Keiichi stay home for school for a while? I think it'll be safer not to go until the police do something about this. Maybe. Compared to what could have happened, taking a few days off wouldn't be a bad idea. Anyway, how is it logical not to close school during such a dangerous situation? What did those teachers think our children are? Mom and Dad were getting pretty riled up, but at this point I just couldn't care less. Besides, this wasn't the only thing I couldn't care less about. The breakfast table, the food, the time and date. This recording's been taking on a Saturday night nonetheless. I really had no interest in anything. The feeling, like a dead fog in my mind. It felt like getting dizzy after taking strong medication, or very strong booze. Keiichi, how are your studies going? You've gotten further than the other kids, have you? If you have, you can take a few days off, right? I didn't feel like answering. Today was Thursday, even though this recording is taking place on a Saturday night. Only 4 days had passed since the festival. Such a short time, and yet now things were completely different. Everything had changed. The tranquil village, bright and clear as if it were Indian summer, had undergone a total reversal. People were made to disappear every night, and we couldn't even relax when walking out in broad daylight. The village is now a world of fear. I have no right to curse this outcome, after all. The one responsible for everything was me. That night, I couldn't resist my honestly tiny, little, incredibly stupid curiosity and broke a taboo. This isn't somewhere we shouldn't be going, isn't it? Let's not. It's a crime to force your way into a locked building, even if you don't steal anything. Shion, now that you know that they weren't have some secret rendezvous, you had enough, right? I didn't want to do something like this. What if Rika-chan's dance ends while we were messing around here? I prattled on as I took the lock from Tomotake's hands and put it back on the door. I'll forget everything I saw here, so come on, let's go. Takano was fretting, but I pushed her away. Tomotake grinned painfully, and Shion's shoulders were drooping, as if to call me an idiot. Even so, I didn't care. I pushed everyone farther and farther away. Rika's dance was still going on, and at last her dance was brought to a close with a roaring applause. I too, until my hands turned red, I clapped, and I clapped. Who is that? Isn't that Rena-chan? She's here because it's your usual meetup time. I looked at the clock. 5 minutes passed. Keiichi, shouldn't you take a few days off? You're right. Thanks for being so considerate. I rose from my seat. I went to the entrance to greet her. Good morning. We're going to school as a group starting today, so you can't be late. That's right. Since we're the one farthest away, we're to be late. The younger kids on the way will be waiting. I think I'm gonna take some time off from school. Okay, she answered, shortly, nodding. I think you should do whatever is best for you, Keiichi-kun, so you don't need to feel that you're weak or anything. Oh, and here, a notice they're sending around. Could you give it to your mom? I think it has a lot of important announcements in it. I took the notice. A lot more pages than normal. The one on top announced the disappearance of the mayor, Rika, and Satoko, and that they wanted any information about them. It made my heart ache. The police are looking as best as they can, too. They'll find him for sure. Just be patient, okay? She said, smiling in an attempt to give me courage. Rather than that, though, her smile looked as if it was because she herself wanted to believe they were safe. Rena, you're not going to question me, are you? No. You know, don't you? About that night. What Do you mean when you snuck into the ritual storehouse? I was speechless for a moment, but then I bit my lip. I made up my mind and nodded. So it's all out in the open. I shouldn't do bad things like that. Michan was really mad. That confirms it. I suppose she would have been anyway. I don't think she was angry about you sneaking in there, as much as you hiding it from her. What? Maybe, Kate-chan, you should tell her yourself and apologize. I should have told her myself and apologize. That troubled me. 1 week ago, I did something I myself should have apologized to Mion for. I'd hurt her badly. However, I hadn't realized it at all. Plus, with all the confusion that Shion's appearance had brought, I still haven't been able to talk to her about it. You know, you're right. I never realized anything until you told me. Geiichi, hypothetically, if you had admitted you'd done something wrong right away and apologized to Micha, I wonder if those wouldn't have to disappear. I couldn't answer right away. I couldn't admit it. Wasn't Rena telling me right now, though, that I should have admitted to my crime sooner? If I'd done that and apologized, would things not have gone in such a horrible direction? Her eyes were filled with kindness, but they were naive enough to forgive me for keeping silent, and they stared fixedly into my own. Yeah, you're right. If I had admitted my crime sooner, then Rika and Satoko wouldn't have to die or disappear. The palm of Rena's hand slapped me in the cheek. I stood there unmoving, my head still tilted in the direction I'd been hit. That didn't hurt at all. I don't think that anyone has scolded you, Keiichi, so I'm gonna scold you in their place. I pressed a hand to my cheek, now warm with embarrassment, and quietly stared down at Rena's feet. Going somewhere you're not allowed to go was a very bad thing to do. Do you understand? Yep. Answer me with yes, Keiichi. Yes. Also, what's even worse, you didn't admit to having done something so bad. You should never do anything bad in the first place, but not admitting to it or apologizing for it is much, much worse. Yes, I was very wrong. For a few moments, she stared at me, silent and intently, as if gauging my remorse. Finally, the tension in her face softened, and she smiled. Okay then, it's about time. I should get going. Alright. Be sure to give the notice to your mom, okay? And warn her not to go out to pass it on after it gets dark. I bent down to pick up the notice, which I dropped when she slapped me. The pages had come out of the collapse and were now making a mess on the floor. I gathered them up one by one. My hand stopped at a single more lighthearted page with peaceful sentences dancing on it. We still have plenty of homemade soy sauce in stock. Feel free to come to the Sonozaki house if you want some. What the? I picked up the page and scanned the rest of it. Stockpiling high-quality soy sauce they got from faraway relatives in the Akita prefecture. They'd gotten a big shipment recently. They couldn't use it all, so they wanted anyone who wanted some of it to feel free to come over. That's what it said. As an extra message, it said to it that it arrived in barrels and to please bring a 2-liter bottle or a container. That's how it was tied together. If you need some soy sauce, then you would go to the Sonozaki house. Rena, did you know all along? Yeah, I knew. She had already been suspicious of Mion as soon as she noticed that the big bottle of soy sauce was missing. Rika had taken the bottle and gone to Mion's house, and there she was erased. Rika wasn't coming back. Sadako called Mion's house, since she knew where she had gone, and then Sadako got called there as well. That meeting on the day the mayor disappeared. Didn't Oishi say that the 3 families participated? The 3 families would have included the Sonozaki family. Didn't he also say that the current leader was really old, so her heir Mion frequently stood in for her at public appearances? While the mayor was returning from the shrine, Mion called out and stopped him. She talked to him, invited to their house, and then she made him disappear. It was probably even simpler to make Shion disappear. Shion was part of the Sonozaki family. They probably knew exactly what she was doing all the time. I'm sure they even knew her part-time job schedule too. Thinking back, wasn't that Angel Mort store managed by the Sonozaki family? Setting up an ambush for her there wouldn't have been any trouble at all. So I'm going to Mion. I'm going to go to apologize. I'm going to have to put an end to everything. Mion probably won't forgive me easily, so I'll go and ask her. And to, well, not sacrifice anyone else. With that decided, there was no need for me to be lazying around. So I put on my shoes and slipped past Rena to exit the house, when she stopped me. I'm going too. Rena, shouldn't you be going to school? This is way more important than school. You shouldn't really come. If you get wrapped up in this, I might actually go crazy. She didn't move her arm, blocking my way. If Keiji couldn't disappear as well, then I think I might actually go crazy too. I won't let you go alone. She argued boldly as tears welled up in her eyes. I saw them and I knew the strength of her resolve. Well, alright, we might as well get going. Thanks, Rena. She nodded slightly but firmly, and finally let down the arm blocking me. Let's go to Mion's house. I'll apologize for the crimes I committed, and we'll put an end to this twisted day of event. Well, to these twisted days. After that, I'll start praying that once more we can return to those fun, lively days. With Rena following me, I left the house. In front of the house, there was a car waiting. Oishi. Good morning, my Bara, and you, Ryuku. Today, so early in the morning. Makes me jealous. What a truly praiseworthy man he was if he had been lying in wait so early in the morning just to pressure me into talking. On this morning, though, maybe this is actually a good opportunity. You're from the police. Oh, have I not introduced myself to you, Ryugu? Excuse me for my rudeness. I'm Oishi, Okinomi Police Department. Pleased to meet you. Are we telling Oishi? Yeah, I think my palm is enough punishment for your crime, but we should leave Nichan to these people. Pain and sadness. I look down as those emotions build up in my heart. We have something to tell you. Well now, what about? Should we stand here and talk? Or go inside the car? Let's get in. I only continued to look down weakly. All I could do was be thankful for how dependable Rena was. At Rena's urging, I revealed everything to Oishi, the latter, while making sure to throw in murmurs that he was paying attention every now and then, took notes. We continued that way for a while. How did you feel? Don't you feel a lot better now that you told me? He asked while scratching his head with his ballpoint pen. Of course I don't feel better. The price that had been paid up to now for me not owning up to my crimes had been so immense But as long as the payment wasn't returned, the load on my chest could never be removed. His radio started to emit static. This is Kumatani. Oishi-san, over. Yes, hello, Oishi. We got news a few minutes ago. She's been absent from school. No movement at the Sonozaki house. Our target is still on the premise. Good. Keep a close watch. Roger that. Cars 3 and 7 just arrived for support, and we will return to base. Also, I think the division chief is looking for you. He keeps annoying me, too, even though I keep telling him I'll try to get in touch with you. What should I do? If you're hard-pressed for an answer, tell him you're actually under orders not to wake me from the morning nap. Got it. Sorry about that. About work. He just said there was no movement at the Sonozaki house, did he? Did it sound like that to you? This won't do. Keep that a secret, alright? I don't have permission from the division chief to be making private inquiries like this. So you suspected me for a long time, Oishi. Nor for questioning witnesses or for searching houses. We don't have permission for anything, really. The Sonozaki house's defense, set to protect the family members, are also in full working condition. Without a warrant, we can't do anything about anything unless crime happens right in front of us. Oishi, could you be... Her tone of voice was enough to make her spite clear as she stared at Oishi. You can't set foot in the Sonozaki house. Were you trying to get... You can't set foot in the Sonozaki house. Were you trying to get Kiichi-kun to go in there instead? Rena, what do you mean? This person, just as I thought. He plays real dirty. Stop, you're hurting my reputation. Well, that said, I'm all ears to your explanation. Oishi lit a cigarette and responded to Rena, wearing an expression that implied he was calm and willing to let her comment slide. You can't get a warrant, but you always had your eyes on Michan because you thought she was suspicious. You plotted to incite Kiichi-kun and have him go to the Sonozaki house, and if something were to happen to him, you would have used that as an excuse to go in. Is that right? I only understood about half of what Rena is saying. Well, that's the story goes, but I understood clearly. I knew, however, that Oishi had been trying to use me. Even if Kiichi-kun got hurt as a result, have you no shame? Is this how the police do things? My. Seems we have an incredible detective on our hands. My. Would you be interested in taking our exam? I'll gladly like a recommendation letter to get you in the detective division. You're despicable. She spoke quietly, her words dripping with hostility. I've been insulted in all kinds of ways in my life, but one or two words from a young girl is always the roughest. Even so, I suppose I should thank you for not arresting Michan yet. Don't mention it. Oishi seems to be enjoying his exchange with Rena. The things this man thought were like a swamp. I could barely see past the surface. It reminded me again of how much I disliked him. Now then, as two esteemed friends of Mion, what do you plan to do now? Would you wait kindly for me to go over there with the evidence and request a warrant? No, we won't wait for that. We're gonna go and make Michan surrender herself. That's right. If she turned herself in rather than be arrested, she might get a lighter sentence. At this point, perhaps this was the only pity I could find in me to afford her. I see. I wonder if it will go that well. If you're careless, you too may face danger, you know. Oishi was measuring our resolve. So in a strong voice, I made a bold declaration. We're fully prepared for this. He gave us an unpleasant yet seemingly satisfied grin. It was then that I realized this man was trying to use us for his own convenience. If anything should happen to us, use this as an excuse. Though my greatest hope is that you will surround the place so that the criminal can't get away. Ryuko, you're good at negotiating. I'm throwing in the towel. I surrender. What are you talking about? If the policemen surround Mi's house, Then that will be insurance for the worst case scenario. That worst case scenario, you know. And it'll be another way of pressuring Mion to give herself up, would it? Oishi Takuma. Oishi Takuma. Come in. Mrs. Kumatani, go ahead. Our two friends are going to play at the Sonozaki house. Make arrangements so that we can reinforce them if needed. Roger. Their altogether too short conversation implied our questioning was already a part of the plan. Then let's get going. What about some tea biscuits on the way? Neither Renan nor I went along with Oishi's stupid joke. Oishi stopped the car at a place we were always waiting for Mion. Come to think of it, I'd never been to her house before. I've only heard it's right down this road. This is as far as I could take you. According to our information, there are quite a few security cameras set up on the premise. Still, I wouldn't worry if I were you. I've got a bunch of youngsters ready and waiting to slip past them and go in. We'll be monitoring the inside with a one-way mic. If you two give a loud scream, we'll know right away. We'll persuade her for sure. Please be ready for her to turn herself in. In both our eyes was determination. It was the only method available for us to lighten the sins of our good friend. Be plenty careful, you hear? You probably don't believe it right now, but I don't want you to be sacrificed if at all possible. You're right about that. With that rude response, we left the car. The clinging humility and voices of the cicadas greeted us. I never expected that today would be the day. Let's go, Kichi-kun. Rena took the lead and began to walk down the road that I had never been to. Have you been to Mion's house before? Uh-huh. A few times. A really big house. You can fit them out in their backyard. You can pick mushrooms and stuff, though there are fences everywhere. Big enough to fit a mountain. Quite amazing. One of the three families controlling Hirimiyazawa, and the head family of the Sonozaki Clan. Perhaps there was something to be said about its magnitude. The path continued onward, level and uneventful. There were metal fences along its edges, and beyond them were woods with trees growing thickly. The fences were high, the tops of them bent inwards, sticking out like sharp spears. Plus, there were dangerous-looking barbed wire wrapping them. No one could look at them and not feel intimidated. In addition, there were signboards hung up here and there along the fence, like private property of the Sonozaki family. Entrance forbidden. Beware of venomous snakes. Active security cameras. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1 million yen. This forest, or I guess a mountain would be right. Is this all their yard? It's more like a domain. As you can see, it's private property, but nobody maintains it. The forest isn't really the kind that you can go hiking in. She could say that again. It really did feel like a neglected savage woodland. Dark and damp, and certainly not a forest that makes you want to go for a nice walk. Maybe that's just what happens when a landowner has too much land. Like Oishi says, there were security cameras hung all over the place. Though they had weathered by wind and rain, casting doubt as to whether they were even functional. I wonder if Mion is watching us as we come here. I don't think she is. The only people living in Mi-chan's house are generally her and her grandma. There's nobody to watch the cameras. Oh, what a useful security system. Well, Mi-chan's daughter seems like a pretty tough person to get along with. So whenever everyone in the family's getting together, the cameras are apparently working properly. That explains it. Mion's father was a big shot yakuza, huh? Rena smoothly danced around the answer as he explained. At last there was a huge gate, as big as I imagined, appeared. Was she living by herself with a grandmother in a house with such a grand gateway? I wonder if she's here. The old buzzer made a dull sound. Was it cut off in the middle and not getting to the house? We waited long enough without a response for me to start thinking that. But we finally heard footsteps walking through gravel on the other side of the gate. I nervously balled my hands, palms now sweaty, into fists. There was the clang of a bolt being released and the gate opened slightly. The person picking up the gap was none other than Mion. Well, this is unusual. Aren't you two going to school? She didn't seem at all surprised at visitors arriving in the morning. Probably not a normal time. In fact, she also seemed relaxed, as if she knew we were coming. We stayed home today. Kate-chan is one thing. But you, Rina? You two are such troublemakers. She smiled lightly in the way that the Mion we knew always did. Well, let's not just stand here. Come on in. She gestured for us to follow her. I hesitated for a moment, looking at Rena. Let's go. Rena smiled cheerfully, as if she was passing through the gate of a good friend's house, and did just that. I rallied myself and then went through the gate too. On the other side, it hadn't been maintained very well, but it was clear the lot was magnificently wide. It wasn't quite what you think when you hear the word mansion, but it was very clear, a vast place. Wasn't this the first time you've been here, Kei-chan? Pretty much. The house is enormous. Steep thatched roofs aren't in fashion anymore. This place could have been a tourist attraction. I want to rebuild it using totally average and boring reinforced concrete steel zone. She dryly smiled as she said that, and closed the gate and relocked its heavy bolt. Don't worry about it. Things have been dangerous lately. Gotta do at least this much during the daytime. You could say that again. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I saw the hint of a shadow in her smile. Well then, good sir and madam, how about I show you inside? Come this way. She bowed to us like a worker at a high-class hotel, then pivoted her heel and began to walk. Rena gripped my stiffening arm lightly. Keiichi, you're tense. You came to see Michan, remember? You don't need to be that nervous. That's right. When I get nervous, I tend to let everything show on my face. Maybe I should stop tensing up. Even if something were to happen, there were two of us. Oishi's subordinates were waiting outside the gate. There was nothing to worry about. After thinking about it that much, I realized my nervousness was already gone and laughed at myself. What's with the stone on top of the newspapers? Kind of in a way. There were a pile of newspapers on the floor of the entrance, and there was a large rock on top of them. I didn't understand why something like that was here. She noticed me looking at it questioningly and giggled. Okay, spill the beans, Rena. What's this? A good luck charm? If you don't really know, feel free to move it out of the way and put your shoes there. Keiichi, there's a nest of swallows right above that stone. What? Oh, I'm sorry. I guess you're right. This house is for people, but swallows still come in without permission and make nests. Must be like a tradition for them. Whenever spring comes up, they make a nest here. Kind of annoying, though. In other words, it's a sign not to take off your shoes here because the swallows will poop and then end up in them. I couldn't help but laugh at that silly contrivance. My laughter naturally spread to the other two. A really long time ago, the Sonozaki family apparently cultivated silverworms. Our ancestors would get all worked up over exterminating the swallows. When you think of it that way, maybe it's just our just desserts. Anyway, come on in. The inside of the house wasn't very bright, dimly lit. In fact, but mysteriously, I could still feel an elegance to the place. Mion seems to want a more modern building, but traditional houses aren't that bad either. You're kidding, right? There's a terrible drought and the winters are freezing. Don't go making my house into property of cultural significance and getting in the way of renovations. Got it? What I want most is a house like yours. I'm pretty jealous of it. Seems like it would be warm for the winter. But snowfall seems like it would be a problem too. What do you mean snowfall a problem? Wait, do you even get that much snow? Our latitude is south of Kanto, isn't it? It's normally warm. You don't know, Keiichi-kun? Hime-san is an area that gets heavy snowfall. When we get a lot, everyone gets buried. Sometimes you can't even go out of your house. Sometimes your car gets totally buried and you can't find where it is. Huh. I wasn't aware of that. Isn't that bad of a place in the winter? Come to think of it. My dad said something like this place got plenty of snow so we can have fun building igloos. Still, your front door getting buried is... it's not that fun. Nor is not being able to find your car. That's probably way too much if that ever happens. You remember from geography class, right? The western side of Japan gets cold winds from Asia. We're different than the softies protected by the mountains, nice and warm by the Pacific Ocean. I'm totally okay with being a softie. I hate the cold. We'll have to have a training camp to get Keiichi used to this cold winter then. No way that's happening. I hate cold. I hate training camps. I hate them even more when they're put together. Mion laughed more uproariously than she ever had and told us she'd bring out some tea and left her seat for a moment. Still, there's a lot of fun things to do in the winter. I bet a club will be a blast then. Our club continuing activities through the winter sounds totally horrible, like swimming in cold or marching in the snow. When did we turn into Mount Redhorn? Yeah, there are definitely a lot of tough punishment games for the winter season. One day she made us have a real carnival in the schoolyard while the snow was falling. I see the terror of our club cared not for the snow. The victor will be decided by who can best adapt to the winter-only events. We do snowball fights and shaved ice cream contest, saved ice eating contest, and treasure hunts in the snow. Why is everything outside? Why can't we play tabletop games in a nice warm room? Oh, Keiichi-kun, if you say things like that, you're gonna lose a lot. What a bunch of punishment games and Renna won't lose. Don't give me that. I sell things with a cross chop to the head. You sure are having fun. Our walls aren't very thick. Be careful not to go flying through any. The paper sliding door opened, and Mion returned with a pot and complete tea set. Don't you want sesame seeds on your rice? We don't have much in the way of bean paste or other good stuff. That's fine. We didn't really come here to drink tea. And with those words, the smile disappeared from her face. She did it. The one careless statement reminded us of what we'd nearly been able to forget. I wanted to enjoy this beautiful time for a little longer, but we put it in with those honestly careless words. When she noticed the smile disappear from Ren's expression, Mion Ju changed hers. It was as if the cheerful air that was like a warm spring day until a moment ago had slipped through the cracks in the paper door and altogether disappeared. No point of regretting now. We didn't come here to chat and enjoy ourselves. She silently poured the tea. During the time both Ren and I sat kneeling without a word. Here you are, drink up. We couldn't even mutter a word of acknowledgement at those natural words of courtesy. There's no poison in it or anything. Do you just trust me that much? That's upsetting. She gave a bitter smile at that and let her shoulders droop. We all remained silent, hoping that someone would speak up. This was, however, the one thing we didn't want to do, so we sat for a long time. At last she scornfully opened up her mouth to speak. Come on, Kei-chan, Rena, you're the guests. Didn't you come up here for something? If you don't speak up, the old man won't know what to do. We exchanged glances. We both resigned ourselves. We now opened our mouth to speak, but I stopped her. Keiichi-kun? It's okay. I need to come here. So let me talk first. Okay, I understand. So, what would Kei-chan have to tell me? Please give me your daughter's hand in marriage, maybe? Can't do that. My little Rena and Kei-chan are meant for each other. Go wash your face with me so stupid. Try again later. Afterwards, I thought of her mean remarks were Mion's own way of showing consideration. She said those mean things in a totally normal voice, and it drained attention from my shoulders. Mion, first I have something to apologize for. You do, huh? What for? She pretended that she didn't know what I was talking about, but I clearly got my point across. Well, the night of the festival, the ritual storehouse behind the shrine, I went in there. I could see her face become hard. I knew it was somewhere I wasn't supposed to go, but it was just supposed to be for a little exploration. We didn't mean anything by it. Even so, I still shouldn't have done it. So I apologize. I'm sorry. To display my deepest sincerity, I pressed my forehead to this table. I'd meant it as my way of prostrating myself. I figured it wouldn't feel sincere enough if I raised my head right away, so I left it there on the table for a while. She didn't say anything. With my face down, I couldn't tell what sort of expression she had. Only the voices of the cicadas filled the room. Mixed with them, I could hear the sound of a clock ticking. That was all. When I started to struggle to breathe for having my head down for so long, Mion told me to stop. You got me there. I didn't expect you to pitch it to me straight. You've got me on the ropes. I looked up to see that Mion's face was calm, but smiling faintly. If you understand that even though it was only a casual exploration for you, then there are a lot of people who would think that this is no laughing matter. Well, if that's okay. There's an old saying, when in Rome, doing as Romans do. Been days since then. Might be too late, but I apologize. What I did was wrong, so forgive me. I could feel pitiful tears welling up. If I had done this sooner, maybe nothing terrible would have happened. It's okay, if you know what you did was bad, that's clear enough, right? She spoke like it was someone else's problem, and I wasn't happy about it. Min-chan, Keiichi is apologizing seriously. Maybe you should respond seriously as well. I am being serious. Do I not look serious enough to you? Sorry you don't. She was giving her tip for that, until the room's atmosphere began to grow sharper. She was right. Even though I came here to speak from the heart, it felt as if she hadn't been taking this seriously. Obviously, Rena isn't fond of that. Clearly. Keiichi, you can get up now. Tell her everything. It looks like what Mi-chan wants too. Oh, shit. I had known it would turn out like this from the beginning. Hadn't I come here prepared to that? I mustered my willpower and bit my lip. Mion, you called Rika and Santika the day before last, right? I don't remember doing so. If you have a reason to think so, could you let me hear it? It was evening before dinner time. Rika should have come here, bringing a big bottle of soy sauce, to have you share some with her. She was trying to keep from showing any reaction, but I didn't miss an eyelid twitching just a little bit. Why did you think that? It's not hard to understand. Mi-chan, you saw it too, didn't you? Rika's room. She put a finger to her forehead and acted like she was thinking. There was chilled tofu, but no soy sauce. Plus, the big bottle of soy sauce should have been under the sink that was nowhere to be found. Oh! What? Is that why she would have come here? Mion, drop the act. You wrote it yourself on the notice. You shared your soy sauce. She scratched her head. I heard her ever so faintly click her tongue. As though we found out she'd purposely given too little change to a servant. That was all I could felt for her. Then Mi-chan, you and Rika, You hit her, didn't you? She hesitated for a moment. I could tell she didn't want to use the word erased. She was struggling to find that word hidden. That was really supposed to be the end, wasn't it? For you, anyway. What are you talking about? You didn't foresee Rika would tell Satoko that she was going to your house, didn't you? Then Satoko called. Might Rika be imposing on you? Yeah, like you said. Probably just like that. You sound just like her. No, I didn't. Mii-chan, you were in a bit of a bind then, because someone knew that Rika had come here. So you decided to lure Satoko here. Lure her out, huh? How, I wonder? She brought her Reddit on as if trying to get to the good part of an interesting story. I knew I'd been watching Mion change the whole time. She was restlessly twirling her fingers. She clearly lost her calm. Of course, it was really a slight thing, and only I, who had been watching her this whole time, would have known. She was panicking. What Rena was saying must have been hitting the bullseye. It probably went like, Satoko, I actually made too much dinner today. Why don't you come over and eat? Rika came early here and already ate some. Something like that. There was a scratch. Her nails dug into her knee. There's no recordings of the phone conversations or anything. How would you know that much? I know it's because the dinner Satoko made for the two of them was plastic wrapped in the refrigerator and hadn't been touched. For a few moments, Mion was frozen in utter amazement. She looked like she couldn't believe it, that this person in front of her was Rena, and probably not Sherlock Holmes.
Nicely done! That's it! I give up! Damn it!
She grew tired of her dumb laughter, heaved a big sigh, and scratched her head. It almost seemed like Mion lost a detective punishment game for her club, and her punishment was decided. How fun it would have been if it were true. An incredible detective. Mii-chan, you're the one who guessed what Oishi said told us. He called me an incredible detective too. As soon as she heard Oishi's name, her eyes began to display a panic more clear so that anyone around would be able to tell. Mion, the police have suspected you for a long time now. Oishi's officers have had the house under observation so that they could break in at any time. She attempted to fake being calm, but it looked like she was having a hard time with that. Part of her couldn't believe that the police had her surrounded, and she closely examined Rena's facial expression. However, she couldn't detect a hint of falsehood. She seemed to accept the fact now that the police were encircling the house. Was the mayor? Mii-chan? Did you? Were Tomotake and Takano? Were they you as well? She didn't answer the rapid-fire questions. I could clearly see impatience in her eyes, still trying to fake calm. At last, Mion, who had been sitting there lazily, readjusted her cushion and sat herself upright. At the moment, the atmosphere changed completely. Her expression changed too. The impatience and wonderment disappeared. She became so solemn you would think she was about to conduct a tea ceremony. I could sense it. It was now in this moment. She had ceased to be Mion, but had changed into Mion Sonozaki, current heir of the Sonozaki household. The solemn atmosphere about her was clearly abnormal. It was entirely different from the Mion that I once knew. I could believe it now. I could believe that she was the young leader who commanded the entire Sonozaki clan. She quietly placed both her hands on the tatami mat and gave a beautiful, elegant bow as if it was really a tea ceremony.
It's nice to meet you two. Let me introduce myself. I'm the heir to the head of the Sonozaki family. My name is Mion Sonozaki. It is my intention to speak openly and honestly regarding any of the events that have recently transpired.
What did I just see?
Why would you do this? That's what I wanted to ask. Why would you do this shit? That not only didn't go for Rika and Satoko, but it went for the mayor, and Tanakano and Tomatake. Even further back, for the incidents that have been occurring every year. For a little while, Mion couldn't respond. Why, when we realized that the question was too vague and tried to put it into more concrete terms, she finally opened her mouth to speak. To answer that question will take some time. If that is acceptable, however, then I will by all means, like to hear it. She spoke to you clearly, with a clarity that a grandmother might use when telling a story from long ago. Do you know that the Hinamizawa village used to be called Onikafuchi Village? Hinamizawa was once called Onikafuchi Village. I heard about that the night Takano was in the ritual storehouse with us. They firmly believed that demon blood ran through their veins and would cut off on contact with the outside world. They were worshipped by the villages at the foot of the mountains, treated like transcendents, those capable of magic. That's right, our ancestors in Onikafuchi Village were proud transcendents descended from demons. Those in the villages at the foot of the mountains worship and honor them. Nevertheless, that all decayed at the end of the Tokugawa era. Flagships arrived, the era of the samurai, the era of national isolation, and the tradition of worshipping Onikafuchi Village quickly disappeared. Those things that lingered from the past were all to be detested. That was the kind of era it became. The Meiji era began, and the name Onikafuchi Village, with its long history, was forcibly changed to the Hinamizawa Village. I've heard the Meiji government strongly wished to erase the old customs, the abolition of feudal domains, the establishment of prefectures. An era had begun, seeing Japan sprinting up the stairs that were beyond their means to try and reach the same level as the rest of the world. All things in the Western style were to be extolled, while all the old traditions were to be scorned. That was the sort of era it was. Our ancestors in Onikafuchi Village were proud transcendents, descended from demons. Onikafuchi Village disappeared in a flash. At last, Japan, provoked by the great European powers, colonizing countries in Asia one by one, began a policy to increase its wealth and military power so that it could stand as a global power in its own right. Conscription began. They won war after war. The first Sino-Japanese War and the Russo-Japanese War, and until the Pacific War broke out, they were recklessly climbing the staircase towards modernization. At the time, Onikafuchi Village had already lost its impenetrability. The villagers once worshipped as transcendents were now on this receiving end of human treatment. The sacred Onikafuchi Village had been groundlessly labeled an isolated village of those afflicted with incurable diseases, a mere shadow of its former self, and stood on the precipice of an era of hardship. Thus began harsh days when one would suffer unreasonable discrimination just because people knew one was from Onikafuchi. The children in the village at the foot of the mountain were taught not to go near Hinamizawa because filthy germs were rampant. Children who had come into contact with children in Hinamizawa would cry and wail as their parents purified the spot they were touching by rubbing salt on it. One of the adults said to the children that if you get lost in Hinamizawa, you're kidnapped by demons, cut into pieces and devoured. Never ever go near the terrifying village of abandoned demons. That's why he taught them cooked and ate them in order to survive. Groundless stories, but look at us said with such seriousness. Baseless slander, added to the baseless slander. I can't even English right now. Making Nikofuchi's village historically accurate, thrilling history all the more believable. Perhaps the chain of undue discrimination was a manifestation of people's anxiety towards the uncertain times. Of course, the story didn't end only with the perspective of children. If anyone found out you were from Onikafuchi, you'd be turned down from any job you applied for. People would even go back on engagements, marriage proposals. As for marriages where one partner had lied about it, as soon as the truth gets out, major divorce. It eventually caused trials. They would appeal that where one came from wasn't an important enough reason to divorce. They would, however, lose their case. Lying about one's birthplace apparently constitutes a heavy act of I can't even English. A heavy act of misrepresentation in marriage. That's terrible. I've heard about such discrimination towards those in small villages in civics class. Just because others knew you were from a tiny hamlet, you'd be subjected to even societal disadvantage if there was. A modern form of bullying when you think about it. Though I only memorized that because it was going to be on a test once. I recall being suspicious about it and unable to believe in such discrimination, and how it would even occur in modern Japan. Well, I suppose I can't say that they weren't asking for it. Our ancestors were proud of the demon blood flowing in them. They lived their lives boasting about it, scorning those at the foot of the mountain after all. They struck fear into the villagers with mystique and demand gifts, dread, and tribute. With that, she smiled for the first time, albeit in soft mockery. During the Pacific War, despite the slogans that all the country was at class war, those from Higurashi continued to suffer all manner of discrimination. There were too many ways to count. They would send their husbands and sons to war, and the women on the home front would suffer greatly. My grandmother remembers it well. She remembers it being a difficult time. Even that bitterly long war, however, it finally ended in 1945. Higurashi had lost many male hands, but at last their fathers and husbands and sons returned. Of course, there were also many who didn't come back. Nevertheless, for those in Higurashi who were at their limits, they were barely able to return and maintain the village without the men. Their return was a very happy thing. MacArthur's GHQ, which I'll have to look up later and we'll probably put it in the video, set to work on drastic improving mindsets and strove for the abolition. I can't even fucking English. Shit. I'm sorry, guys. And strove for the abolition of unfair discrimination. They could feel day breaking on the dismal night that was the previous era. Higurashi was on the verge of turning into a ghost town. Those in the village started to say that they should rebuild it once again and got to work, trying to make it even more plentiful. During that time, someone appeared and built up a fortune through a vast number of games in the black market. Mion's grandfather, the husband of the elderly current family, Sonozaki. Said that he managed food warehouses into Harbin after being dispatched to the Chinese mainland. When it was time to pull out, he conspired with his superiors and comrades, stole a great deal of the army's canned goods, hid them somewhere in the Saito Island Sea, and sold them widely at a high price on the black market, thus earning a fortune. So he didn't spend that fortune for his own pleasure. He entrusted the entire amount to his wife, the head of the Sonozaki house. Let's revive this ruined village. All who live here are our family, and this fortune is our collective property, so he proclaimed to my grandmother, the current head of the family. That vast fortune was a huge reason why Higurashi was revitalized in the war. Let's see. With that, Higurashi came back to life, and is how the Sonozaki family established its current prosperity. Of course, there were many people who Begrudgingly, the money come from the black market, but the villagers no longer minded. They succeeded at one business venture after another. Those who had succeeded freely supported those who followed them. The giant family of Hinamizawa, tied together with strong bonds, kept on expanding its influence. The Sonozaki family, the center of everything, will be extolled for a long time as the minds behind Hinamizawa's revitalization. The person in the middle of the hall is your name, Nami-chan? Amazing. What a big success. Leon looked like she was honestly happy Miranda had praised her. All around 1955, the wind started to blow in the other direction because of the canned flesh incident. Canned flesh. Sounded so hideous that just hearing it made me nauseous. Someone naming himself as my grandfather Sohei Sonozaki's superior confessed that the canned goods had been human flesh. Hinamizawa, a village in which demons live and ate humans, they were just about to wipe away that cursed stigma. The light they had finally started to see in their peaceful lives grew hazy and disappeared. The shocking truth as revealed by his former superior, the stolen provisions from the old Japanese army that had been a huge cornerstone for Hinamizawa's revival, had been canned human flesh. Why were there cans like that? Wasn't Sohei just a manager of food warehouses? His superior revealed that Sohei did not have the job of managing food. In reality, Sohei's job during the war had been to exterminate pestilent mice and transport corpses of them with infectious diseases. It had been an unfair treatment, and all because of the loneliness of his origins. As a result, though, he had returned safely without having been sent to the front lines or being detained. Perhaps it was the only fortunate thing to happen to him. Finally, Sohei was enlisted as an assistant at a military medical institution. There, however, he found something even worse than the low-score and depressing customs of Unagafuchi village and the research they were carrying out. Could they have been, well, you know, the bacteriological corps in the old Japanese army? Keiichi, you heard of that? What could it be? Pretty sure it was Unit 731. A nightmare unit devoted itself to researching terrifying bacteriological weapons to break the dreadlock war. They used innocent people as fodder for horrible human experiments and methodically observed how many days a new strain will take to kill victims. How many days would it be when injected? How many days it would be when swallowed? They dissected many people to find that out, and sometimes they wouldn't bother waiting until they were dead and dissected them while they were still alive. Strapped into the centrifuges while still alive and crushed them into decompression chambers while still alive. When a live human decompresses, all the holes in the body get pushed outwards, and their intestines will get pushed out of their anus like a snake biting out of it. I had a feeling I saw something like that on a documentary one time. It makes me sick. You still hate Hinamizawa, huh? You said it. She agreed with me, with a faint, sad smile. It wasn't much in the way of communication, but for some reason, I was happy to have it right now. The unit Sohei was in did way kinder research than that, researching concrete methods for reducing the difficulty of delivering food on the battlefield. The military's design at the start of the war completely fell apart, and a chronic food shortage broke out all over the battlefront. Food shortage led to malnutrition. As their natural resistance is lowered, the soldiers fell with one disease after another. Spirit and morale lowered as well. They wouldn't be able to maintain their forces in the village. Apparently, that's what research started. At first, it was to find methods of delivering food to battlefields, but very broad and included things from violent methods like stealing from citizens to survival methods like how to cook unfamiliar insects and plant life. As they were working out the details, they kept straying off course and going out of control, until finally they knocked down a door called a taboo. What do you think the easiest source of protein on a battlefield is? We knew the answer without being told. We didn't bother to answer. That's right, researching ways to handle humans as food. Fighting onwards, sometimes eating the flesh of enemies and that of allies, becoming the ultimate service paid to the country. They were deathly serious about this doctrine. Really as a riot. My grandfather was despised as someone who ate human flesh, and yet they had gone above and beyond. apparently he always thought about it too. Even if he was a vulgar man-eating demon, there were far more ugly demons than he was. No matter how much he was scorned, he wouldn't put up with it. At last they had a handful of test prototypes. When the soldiers learned it was human flesh, scientists couldn't make anyone eat it, so it was apparently sent to the front lines. The cans were labeled meat substitutes, and so that they wouldn't accidentally eat it themselves. Then it comes full circle. Star soldiers on the front line apparently loved all the prototypes to be sent. Among them, those who cooked with soy sauce, like it was sukiyaki. They loved it the most. Okay, I think we're getting to this point. Let's not talk about eating people. Right? We have enough of this shit. It's not get sick. She really was pale-faced. It looks like she was having difficulty continuing to sit on her knees. She looked like she had more to say, but she sighed heavily and stopped. So, those canned goods your grandfather brought back. I can't tell if it's true or not. Zoe denied it was human flesh until the day he died. However, those who begrudged Himizawa's sudden revival called him a savage for making a fortune for selling human flesh, and the villagers began to be scorned again. They returned to a time where children would be jeered at and have rocks thrown at them. The stifling silence came back. A seriously hopeless and sad story it was. Discriminated. Were discriminated against. Discriminated and were discriminated against again. Why must they attach worth and rank to it? Why can't they live without looking down on people? Why can't everyone enjoy life together? I wouldn't know. My grandmother, the family head, once told the children of this village, if they threw a stone at one of you, two of you must throw stones back. The children asked her, what if they threw stones at two of us? Of course, the answer was simple. Throw them back with 4. Chase the 8 of you down with sticks, drive them off with 16. Slandered with 30, yell back at 60. Finally, the children asked, what if we were attacked by 1,000 people? Even that answer was simple. Everyone in Himizawa will stand up against them. A manifesto to spur people into action. My grandmother rose down and was the leader of the Sonozaki house, but as the mother of Himizawa. Halfway through, I think 1955, a time when riots over the treaty with the U.S. were rampant, a time of battle and action. The people of Himizawa joined together and fought, treating unfair discrimination towards one as a crime against them all. It didn't matter whether that one was a child or an adult. If they heard that a child had been told off, everyone would crowd the house at the perpetrator acting as a whole. If they heard an adult had been treated unfairly, men, women, young and old would all band together and stand up against it. If you meddled with people from Himizawa, you'd be in trouble. Probably figured out if they could make others think that, they'd win. Kei-chan, do you remember how many people came to help you when you got involved with a bunch of delinquents in town? I recalled how much of an impression it had left on me, but the people of Himizawa boldly came to my rescue, yet the people from Okiomiya averted their eyes so they wouldn't get involved. My grandmother fought and my parents carried on the fight. At last, peace returned to Himizawa. Of course, that peace had been placed on the razor's edge. When you consider the previous 100 years of history, the tranquility now can be only called a chance interval, standing on uneven scales. So why? Could I really have an opinion on such a long and difficult history when I haven't moved here more than a year ago? I said it anyway. Why can't we all just live in peace? I remember those old stories of Orishiro that I heard from talking about. Man and demon joined to hand, living together in harmony. Being the Orishiro who made the school of potential for that? That's a fairy tale. I mean, that even if those people and the demons were real, the Orishiro who meditated between them wasn't. So why is Orishiro-sama's curse happening? A cool gust of wind blows in, fluttering Mion's long, beautiful, clear hair. Mion kept her refreshing smile without answering. It didn't even change her expression, but even that became a silent answer. So that Himizawa village might be once more like Onikafuchi village, so that we may again be a sacred existence. worthy of worship. That was the earnest wish of our ancestors in Fuji, and the mission of those who inherited the demon in the Sonozaki family. For generations, the Sonozaki family has had a custom of imprinting the character of demon in the reader's names. As explained in the previous video, if you write out my name on your hand, it should appear plain as day. So I trace out the word beyond. The character for demon is in there. Not only in my name, the demon is engraved into my body as well. When she said that, she quietly rose and began to lay her hand on her clothes. It's okay, Michan, you don't need to show us. Thanks. With just that exchange, I guess that's what she meant. Most likely, somewhere on her body, there was a permanent seal, a tattoo, maybe a marking, that proved she inherited the demon. Leon didn't sit back down. She smoothly opened the paper door onto the porch. A refreshing breeze began to clean the damp air filling the room. She quietly gazed out at the wide yard for quite a while. On her shoulders was something I could never imagine normal Mion carrying. The heavy, truly heavy history of Inamizawa. No, of Onikafuchi village, weighing down on them. What kind of words could I possibly say to that? Rena wasn't saying anything either. Only the voices of the cicadas drowned out in the silence. At last, after a long period of nothing, Mion murmured. The serial incidents happening over the past 5 years. I was directly related to some of them, indirectly to others. Some were not the Sonozaki family, but were rather related to the others, Kimiyoshi and Furude. I think I was at the center of all of them. She said it all without turning around with her back to us. At some point, her tone of voice had gone back to being the Mion we knew. I have faith in what I've done, and don't feel any guilt. If I did, perhaps it would be that I will have to leave the stage before the heir is decided. If I'm caught and tried in the court of law, I suppose that's how it works nowadays. Being able to retire with Hinamizawa, the most peaceful he's been in 100 years, could be the happiest thing that's ever happened to any of the Sonozaki leaders of past generations. She leaned her shoulder against the paper door, and slid down and flopped to the ground. An act of such resignation that seeing it made me hurt. The numerous terrible crimes Mion had been a part of suddenly began to fade from my mind. Hey Mion, I don't care what happens after this. Can't you just try to struggle as much as you can? At least try to run away? As soon as I began to think that way, Rena's ringing voice filled the room. But Rika and Satoko, you've killed them, didn't you? The sharp points of her words stabbed my chest, despite not being directed to me. I'm not saying it's okay that you've killed other people. Regardless, Michan, you've killed Rika and Sadako. Her words were more biting than any I've ever heard. Even now, we knew all the heavy history pressing down on Mion's shoulders. She started criticizing her for killing our friends. Just as I bear the duty of the Sonozaki family, Rika bore the duty of the Furude family. The duty was to protect the ritual storehouse. My chest tightened. I learned around last year that Rika had said something about it. The bars on the storehouse were too heavy for her. She wanted to change them to a simpler locking key. Even the priest before her had complained about it being heavy. He was very aware of how hard it was. I'll make sure to guard it, so I want to replace the lock with something lighter. I replied on behalf of the Sonozaki family leader. Ever since the string of freak death incidents, there seems to be people who are insolent towards Oyashiro, so you shouldn't replace the lock with such a simpler one.
That said, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, Old Man Kimiyoshi, if it's that difficult for you, Rika, I think it's okay to replace the lock, he said, something like that. The very fact that it was locked with a key was an indication of it being somewhere you just shouldn't enter. Nobody bad enough to break through and go inside, he said, even if we were like his leaders. I couldn't find it in me to argue with Old Man Kimiyoshi since I owed him so much. In the end, we decided to change the lock in the storehouse and switch it to some cheap and light powder. I told Old Man, is this really alright? And as asked if possible, we should keep the lock the same. It'll be alright, he said. You're quite the worry word. If something happens, this old man will take all the responsibility. Do you promise, I asked? You mean that you will take responsibility as the ruler of the Kimiyoshi family? You should be aware of how sacred that things inside are. It's okay, there aren't any bad cats in the news that will open the lock and break in. Meow meow. Sobs escaped from my mouth. Something hot and wet dripped down in spades and fell to my neck. I've already heard of the thieves entering the ritual storehouse during the Higurashi festival. 4 of them. We decided to act within the day. At the same time, we needed to demand the ones who allowed the thieves to break in, Rika of the Furude, and Old Man Kimiyoshi would take responsibility. My tears dripped and dropped. Until just now I decided that it was Mion's fault, that she killed Rika and the others. That was wrong. The one who killed them all wasn't her, it was me. I might as well have killed them. Keiichi, I had a chance to stop this tragedy from happening, and yet I didn't. Cheap curiosity got the better of me, and I didn't. If at the time I'd stopped us from sneaking into the ritual storehouse, Rika and the others wouldn't have to die. If I had, then nothing would have happened. We wouldn't be spending our days. We'd be spending our days, having lots of fun, like we always did. I was an idiot. If I shed any tears, I could take it all back. And I would have filled a room with them. But such a meager act wouldn't be enough to redeem myself for the crime committed. Kei-chan, you're not at fault. Mion gently began to speak to me as if trying to reason with me. As leader of the Sonozaki family, I needed to act. But given the history of the Sonozaki family, thinking about it now is no big deal. Maybe I should have saved my friends. If you'd been casting it all aside, I yielded to it, and that's why I killed him. I, Mion Sonozaki, and nobody else killed him. I had hundreds of chances to stop it, but I didn't stop. I gave in to the easy role that was handed to me, and abandoned all the thought of fighting for my friends. So that's my crime. I killed him. Mion Sonozaki, with these hands, killed him. And nothing whatsoever changed. Nothing. Then she started laughing. Son of a bitch! Her masochist laughter was very sad, especially because Mion posted in club she would turn the tables on whatever predicaments presented themselves. So painful. Still, Mi-chan, you saved one person of your own volition. As I looked at her surprised, she stuck her finger right in my forehead. You left Keiichi alive. As strong as you are, Mi-chan, it would have been no trouble for you. But you didn't kill him. That's right. Mion was so cunning that nobody could stand up to her, even in our club. If she seriously tried to kill me, I would have been dealt with on the very first night. So many people have been sacrificed, but I was left out in the cold. When did I first realize it? Even though people were disappearing one after the other for some reason, I had this vague belief that I would be the only left alive. Why didn't I kill him? As a demon, I can't even begin to guess. Maybe Mion has some reason she didn't want to kill me. What's that supposed to mean? Shh. Mion put a finger in her lips to say that I didn't talk. Is Oishi waiting outside? Yes. Any way out? No. They say they had the place surrounded. Seems like they caught a lot of cars over the radio. I think they have your entire property surrounded. She felt silent. Our merciless words felt cruel. But they weren't meant to be. Maybe they were trying to lessen her good friend's pain, if only by a little. Maybe they were considerate, like she was trying to help. Please, turn yourself in. Mion didn't open her mouth, but she smiled. Just a little. We'll go with you. We'll never leave a friend by herself. Crying children and Rena are the only things that I just can't beat. She rose, scratching her head. Her face had returned entirely to that of the usual meal. I'm well aware of how serious my employers are. Even if they accept me turning myself in, I'll probably never be able to come back here. I couldn't say anything. The number of deaths that she was involved in, just too much. So much, maybe recommending that she turn herself in was a very extreme. I'd like you to hear one nice selfish request. What is it? 30 minutes. That's all I ask. Let me have some time alone with Kei-chan. My name suddenly came up, and it looked like I was the only one surprised about that. Keiichi-kun, is that okay with you? If you don't want to, I won't make you. You're right. It's okay if you don't want to. After all, I'm a demon. Kei-chan is a bona fide human who moved here from somewhere else. For us to be compatible, as long as Oishiro-sama doesn't exist to mediate, it just simply isn't possible. No reason for me to hesitate. She had been engulfed by heavy, unopposable tradition. Right now, the duty of handling this had fallen to me and me alone. In fact, with me cornered, it would have been okay for her to blame me. However, Mion didn't say one word of blame. Far from it. I was guilty of the same crime, and she lets me go. Amidst the fate she could not oppose, she saved me alive. I didn't know whether I should be thankful for that. Thinking upon it now, I didn't know how much easier it would be if I were to be granted the same punishment as Rika and the others. The only thing I knew for sure was that I had an equal duty to bear. The sins Mion shouldered. So when it came to Mion's last request, there was no reason for me to hesitate. Sure, it's fine. Thanks. I'd like to thank you as well, Keiichi-kun. Rena stood up. Looked like she would keep her promise with Mion and leave. It's fine, Rena. You can wait right here. I just want to go around the yard with Kei-chan. If you're bored, you can go to my room and read all the manga you like. If there's any volumes you like, you might as well take them. I don't want to. Mi-chan's books belong to you. Rena can bring them home with her so freely. You're such a good kid. All in times like this. Mion took Rena's head and rubbed it violently, like I always did. Okay, let's go. I began to walk around Mion, who headed to the hallway. With Rena silently stopped me. Deaths she had been involved in. The chances of her escaping a heavy punishment seemed non-existent. Watch out, son. Don't make her lose her temper, okay? Mia might not surrender herself to justice, so I might have to put it into it myself. Right, I've already thought of that far ahead. Right. I won't let that happen. Rena rubbed her tears, which had fallen without me noticing. Then go after her. I nodded and followed her, who had disappeared out the front door. I could clearly hear Rena sobbing from the other side of the paper door. So why was Mion made a successor to demons? Maybe it just had to happen that way. But it's just so awful. Something hot burned down my cheeks. Must be my tears. I fiercely wiped them away. The last of my time that I could offer to Mion, so I absolutely didn't want to let her see my tears during it. Mion was already waiting outside the front door. I put on my shoes, tapped my toes against the floor a few times, and then left, and Mion timidly came over. Why is she turning all red at a time like this? Can I hold your arm? Such a modest request. I don't mind. With my permission, her face lit up with glee, like a child being given a toy, and took my arm. Do you get kind of nervous with your arm through mine? You're not thinking, for example, that I suddenly put you in a world-class joint lock or anything, right? You two say the same things. I don't think that. At all. Back when nothing had gone wrong yet, during those nostalgic days of the bustling commotion at Angel Mart, I counted back and was amazed. Only been a week ago. I've been in arms with Shion then too. Linking arms with Mion like this really reminded me they were twins. How much strength they put into it, the sensation of their arms, their warmth, the blood flowing, I could feel that their living sensations were all exactly the same. I think Shion liked you, Kei-chan. See that. If this were a regular conversation, I might have jumped back, ran in the face. But right now, no matter what I heard, my mind remained at peace. Mion and Shion. You get along well, don't you? Well, I wonder. Kei-chan, do you think your right hand and left hand get along? What do you mean? I don't think you could describe them as getting along. That's how a relationship is. You can't measure it by the scale of how well we get along. That didn't sound like it meant they got along really well. One of your hands is dominant. They will always be the better hand. If you only had one of them, you would put it on your dominant hand without even thinking. I think maybe it was like that for us. That doesn't mean, though, that anyone will be okay with losing their left hand. Kind of an unexplainable relationship. Maybe you live too close together and just stop being able to see it, but I think that means you get along really well. I am an only child, so the day before the festival, I was really jealous of whether you and Shion were messing around with each other. I think you're jealous of something that doesn't exist. We twins used to have a lot of fun playing tricks on people, but now that we have such distinct different personalities, it just gets in the way. Whether cursed or self-conscious, the relationship was hard to understand for an outsider. Maybe this wasn't an issue someone like me should intrude on. Just staying silent and nothing gently was the best, and nodding gently was the best way to advance the conversation. Mion passed through the wide yard and invited me into the big desolate forest we'd seen on the way in. Such a big forest was a part of the property and I couldn't help but feel small. It's huge. You must have a great time playing it as kids, huh? She seemed to be silently reminiscing. I could look into her mind, but she's probably thinking back on those fun days when they played as sisters without any antagonism. Every time the wind blew, it caressed the treetops and the leaves, making swishing, murmuring sounds. She remained silent for a long time, thinking back on her younger sister, whom she had gotten rid of with her own hands. There was no need for me to get a word in. Just walking like this, arm in arm, it was enough. Mion suddenly stopped and turned. Shion is still alive. Seriously? She took a hard look into my eyes, then nodded quietly. Yeah, I've been thinking to give her the most horrible death of all, so I had her locked up. I never did think of a good way to do it. She sounded as though she hated Shion, but deep down she didn't completely detest her. So I took my other hand and rustled Mion's hair with it. Mion didn't only save me, she saved Shion. Mion might have become a demon, leading many people to their deaths, but she fought against it, was able to save 2 people. A As I petted her, she narrowed her eyes in an entranced smile, and untangled her arm from mine. Then she quietly said, "Come with me, I want you to see all of my sins. Although, okay, John, it might be the worst thing you'll ever see." I could sense it. There I'll probably find all the sacrifices up until now. Looking at them would mean accepting Rika and Sadako's deaths, as well as something that my best friend had done. It's already happened and it's in the past. You can choose not to locate, John. If you don't want to, wait here. I'll personally end everything. I was taken aback by how ominous that sounded. I remember what Rena told me. She might not surrender herself to justice, but instead choose to put an end to things herself. I couldn't leave her on her own. Besides, I agreed to her last request, didn't I? Even if it was hard for me to accept, I still did it. Even if I avoided looking, it was something that had already happened. It doesn't matter what I see. Mion is the best friend I could ever have. It's not going to change. It never will. The treetops softly swayed in the wind. You and Rena both. Why did you only get really cruel at times like this? Normally I'd say something rude back at her, evading the question. But today I didn't. I just answered. At last Mion started walking into a thick forest, the deepest part. After following a thin path that looked like an animal trail for a while, we came across a steep incline with a tunnel that reminded me of a coal mine, maybe a bomb shelter. We were surrounded by shallow hills. It had been created in a spot not visible from the outside. So many silhouettes of crows in the trees here and there. That abnormal odor I'd been smelling for a while was doubtlessly escaping from inside this place. If you want to turn back now, now's your chance. I don't know what kind of person Mion Sonozaki is to you, but if you go inside, that Mion will probably, I doubt she'll change. I'll say it as many times as I need to. Mion, you're the best friend I could ever have. I clenched my fist. Inside there was probably sun beyond the sight of anything I could imagine. If I let my guard down, I might end up vomiting. Even so, I'll endure it. I'll overcome this pain and suffering. I'll never change that Mion is my great friend. I am nothing more than a demon, so I don't understand human feelings anymore. I do have one, though, that I know why Mion will fall in love with you. Don't say it like it's not related to you. You're Mion, aren't you? You're not some demon. You're a human blood, and you're a friend. She made a gesture like she was wiping tears from her eyes, then placed a hand on the big door at the tunnel entrance. The lock on the door was doggedly strong-looking. Seemed to demand the appropriate resolution from whoever would enter, just like the ritual storehouse. When the double doors opened, a stiffening rotten air and a bunch of winged insects came rushing out. I remember accidentally killing a hermit crab a long time ago by leaving its tank on the porch, and how intense the odor it left was. If that was the smell of a corpse, then it's certainly what it smelled like. Inside was pitch black, but Mion flicked a switch and turned on a light, illuminating the interior. The path turned into a series of intricate wooden tunnels. We passed spaces that looked like they were storage. We passed places that looked like someone had lived there. All this indicated that I'd been used as a bomb shelter and stockpile during the war. It didn't give an impression of a dug-out bomb shelter that had just been left there. There was a sense of dignity, so as though this was a secret, secondary Sonozaki house, constructed underground. Despite being in pitch darkness below the ground, the voices of cicadas were entering through an air hole, giving it a mysterious feel. You saw what was in the ritual storehouse. The piles of torture instruments. All of them were created to uphold the strict religious laws of the only good Fuji village. They were tools used to kill those who broke the laws in terrible ways as a warning to others. But that was a long time ago. Wada Nagashi, originally a ritual meant as determined, was once oversaw by the three families. But thanks to Kimiyoshi and Furude families going into decline and the way times changed, carrying it out became difficult. I can see why. You ever think people could be okay with drowning people in a swamp and killing them in modern Japan? That's why the Sonozaki family built this, a secret place, so that we can continue to conduct the rite of Wada Nagashi in modern times. She opened a large, strikingly different door, and inside was none other than a modern storehouse for rituals implements. Quite a few, isn't there? Some of them were brought here from the original storehouse. They look rusty and covered in dust. They didn't seem that real, but the things here were different. Every one of them had been well maintained, kept in a state that it could be used right away. Blades gleaming, spikes were sharpened. Perhaps as a precaution for the splatter for blood, the walls and ceiling were covered in the kind of tiling you see in bathrooms, and even a drain set amidst a slight slope in the floor. There was also a coiled rubber hose along the wall attached to a faucet, perhaps for cleaning up the splattered blood. According to something a leader from a long time ago wrote, blood splatter has impact, despite the fact that it doesn't tax the sacrifice. Wada Nagashi was meant as a deterrent after all. My ancestors thought about different kinds of things to show off. As she said that, she pointed deeper into the torture room, to a spot veiled in darkness. Surprisingly, a room filled with tatami mats, and the cover was a pile of cushions. Seats for an audience. Wada Nagashi was meant as a deterrent after all. It wouldn't make sense if there were no guests. I couldn't speak and think of anything to say anyway, except for that if Mion revealed all this to me, made her heart feel any lighter, then I was prepared to listen for as long as I needed to. Right here, where I killed everyone. No spectators to watch me, but I didn't know Wada Nagashi very well. Or perhaps there was one spectator. One? Me, the demon that was watching the entire time Mion held the Wada Nagashi ceremony. She cackled in self-deprecation. Wasn't a nice sounding laugh. Back there is a prison. Is she on there? Mion's Wada Nagashi ended today. I need to tell Shion that I was saved without a moment's delay. After all, she was probably trembling with fear at this very moment, worried about when she would be killed. The ostentatious door on the other side opened, revealing what must have been an incredibly expensive space based on the echo it made. Mion groped around in the darkness, and a handful of naked light bulbs came on here and there. As my eyes adjusted, more and more the great cave showed itself in the faint light. The walls were bare rock surface, felt so savage that bomb shelter was the most apt term for it. There were small barred rooms built here, like holes made by insects biting their way through a giant piece of fruit. It was immediately clear that each of them was a prison. So where is everyone? The corpses of the people I killed? I grimaced at her having said that so outright. Yeah, that's right, the poor things being left here in the dark like this. I didn't want them to get infested with bugs. I threw them down the well. Sorry. So I can't even see their faces in death. Once again, my feelings of regret at having confessed everything to Rika came surging forth. If Mion hadn't attached the word sorry to the end of what she said, I might have punched her. Might as well just calm down a little bit. You said it yourself. No matter what, she's your great friend. Yeah, my greatest friend. I need to hear myself say it out loud. Then came the clattering of bars in one of the cells deeper in, when I noticed that it looked at it as well. Shion, is that you? Kei-chan, is that you? I ran over to the cell. White hands were peeking through the gaps in the bars. It really was her. Are you alright? Are you hurt? No. No, 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 no! Her face twisted out of shape as she screamed, because Mion had appeared right behind me. Of course Shion didn't know that everything was over yet. Calm down, everything is already over. Everything. I tried to speak as in a calm voice as I could manage and try to soothe the agitated Shion, but it didn't seem like it was getting through her screams. Shion, how have you been? No more, please, no more. I don't want to see anyone else die. If you hate me, just kill me. I'm the one you hate, right? Kill me. Kill me right now. Sis! Calm down. It's all over now. It's going to be alright. So just calm down. Shion was screaming and rattling the iron bars back and forth, truly in a frantic state. I gave a slight shrug of resignation, giving way to Mion. I realized that if Mion was the one who locked her in here, and if Mion was the one who had scared Shion this much, Mion was also the only one who could have put an end to this. Mion spoke from over my shoulder, quietly. Relax, I won't kill you. I won't kill you just yet. She burst out into a bizarre laugh, as if trying to make Shion's madness worse. Shion broke out into a fierce shiver. No fucking wonder. Brought on by the laugh, and rattled the idle iron bars as she wailed. Please stop! Don't kill Kei-chan! Kei-chan has nothing to do with this, does he? If you're going to kill someone, kill me right now! I don't want anyone else to die! Oh, if you wanted to die that badly, then after I kill this man, I'll take my time making mincemeat out of you. In accordance with ancient rites, I'll do it slowly, starting with your extremities. I'll shave you down and mince you. I have that mincing machine set up specifically for you after all. Or would it be funner if I were to mince up Kei-chan right in front of you? Whoa, quit it. What do you have to gain by scaring her to this point? No, Kei-chan, run away! I tried to rebuke Mion for flinging terrible words at her at this late in the game, but when I turned around, Mion's mouth, so much that it was hard to believe, had twisted into a shape thinner than a crescent moon. A hell of a smile. I could sense it like a jolt of electricity. This person wasn't my best friend anymore. It wasn't the Mion Sonozaki who had been tossed about by her heavy duties of succeeding the Sonozaki family either. At that point, who could she be? I saw sparks flying before my eyes, like what happens when you get hit in the back of the head. The strength in my body drained instantly, and my head suddenly became heavy. My knees buckled under the temptation and hit the floor. My whole body collapsed. My face should have hit the floor, but it was comfortable as if I'd fallen on a down-filled futon. Consciousness reeled and received. The kind of sensation like if you took a nap in the car, but you would still have awake. You could listen to your parents talking as if they were far away. Although you wouldn't be listening, you would only be hearing me. It was happening so far. The conversation was completely unrelated to you, so you wouldn't have no interest in it. So whatever Shion was yelling in my ears or Mion was in vulgar hysterics, I didn't think it annoying, nor did it interest me. Now that I wonder how I should go about in preparing you. Oh yes, what do you think of a bed of nails? I tested it on those two little brats, but their hands were too small for the restraining table. Might as well do that. Mion held me up from behind and dragged me across the floor. The soles of my feet scrapped on it, and one of my shoes fell off. Shion continued to scream. No, please stop, sis! Please stop! She cried. Her emotions exploded outward, and she burst into bitter weeping. As if her crying had weathered Mion's interest, she flung me down and returned to the prison cell. My, you sure can cry with a cute voice, can't you? Your unnatural bravado was making my skin crawl, but this definitely suits you best. Mion, my big sister, I beg of you, I don't care how you choose to kill me. But please let him Kei-chan go. I'm begging you. Shion had always acted as though she were a cut above her older sister. But that Shion in such a miserable voice that I couldn't have imagined during those peaceful times, prostrated herself before the older sister that she used to scoff at and plead forgiveness. Mion looked down with an expression of cool indifference. Hornbells painfully smiled with joy. You know, I wasn't planning on listening to your. The way you're crying, though, is just too funny. I think maybe I'll change my mind and listen to you. Since, come to think of it, I never did anything big sister-like to you. Yes, thank you so much. Alright then, let's hear you apologize for everything. Maybe I'll let it all be water under the bridge. Maybe, just maybe, I'll let Kei-chan go. Mion said she might let me go, but she never did say anything about letting her go. Before long, she got on her hands and knees behind the bars and began to speak weak words of apology. All too faint for me to hear, but their intention got across. Despite having watched her with a magnificent jubilant expression, Mion kicked the bars and declared that she was unsatisfied. I think I can make up for years of grudges and hard feelings like that. That just will not do. I guess I'll just make mincemeat out of you both. Oh, fucking hell. Wait, sis! One more chance, just one more chance! She stopped and waved her hand again in resignation. Not because she had grown impatient, but only because she was taking delight in abusing Shion. You can't apologize to my satisfaction anyway. I'll teach you how to make an apology that will get through to your older sister. I'm only going to tell you once, and if you get a letter wrong, you're out. Got it? Yes. Yes. Thank you, sis. Her miserable voice cried out, having become utterly hoarse. The sensation tearing through my chest returned a little at a time. I realized that it was the feelings of anger bubbling up. I slowly regained control of my body. However, I was only able to feel my skin and my blood flowing at the moment. I couldn't voluntarily move my fingers. Did you memorize it? Let's hear you say it. Sincerely and faithfully from beginning to end with all your heart. If you can do it properly, I'll only kill you. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Something was strange. It became strange at some point. Until a few moments ago, I was sure this had been Mion. But at some point, she becomes someone else entirely different. The Mion I knew would never do something so nasty like enjoying trampling all over someone's dignity. Now let's hear it. Your big sister is listening closely. Shion Sonozaki is. When I ran over to Shion's cell earlier, had the real thing been swapped out with a fake right behind me? Couldn't possibly be Mion. Shion Sonozaki is a lowly, worthless sow not fit to even lick her big sister Mion's feet. And when I think of the countless times I've been rude to my big sister, and I don't know my place. Yes, that's the spirit. I'll permit you to say it a little more now, okay? Blood circulated throughout my whole body. My numbed senses were returning. Just a little more. While Shion was still holding Mion's. No, that thing pretending to be Mion's attention. Come on. I reflect on how impertinent I've been, and swear loyalty to my big sister Mion for the rest of my life. So... The burst of laughter echoed throughout the big cave, growing to a terrifying level. Not the laugh of someone who was alive in this world. None other than the laugh of a demon from the bowels of earth. She laughed from her stomach until she grew tired of it and stopped smiling suddenly, as if snipping a wire. Alright already. Funny enough for me. I didn't think you'd throw away that much of your pride. You know, that was plenty enjoyable. Mion began to drag me again after I finally got the feeling of my body back and pulled me towards the torture chamber. Sis, don't kill me. Please forgive him. Don't worry, alright? I'll be sure to kill you real good after letting you get an earful of Kei-chan's screams. Oh, fucking hell. She's gonna torture me. After dragging me to the torture chamber, she skillfully strapped me into a restraining table. Before I knew it, I was sprawled out and bound. She forced open my hands, which I couldn't even make a satisfying fist, and tightly restrained each of my fingers. She fastened only my hands, my fingers at that, tightly with hinges, and locked them in place. Sis, don't kill him, sis. The door to the big cave with the jails had been left open, so I could hear Shion's cries of mortification the entire time.
Can you hear me, Shion? It's about to begin. I hope that you enjoy it when Keiichi starts screaming.
Give it a fucking rest. The feeling of my body returned, and the first action I took was to tell off the thing that looked like Mion.
You're awake. Nice.
I lied before, you know. Having wanted to give Shion the most miserable death of all by locking her up because I hadn't thought of a good way yet. It was all a lie. She brought over something like a toolbox. From inside, a large metal hammer, like long, strangely shaped nails. Oh wait, I misread. I'm sorry. From inside it, she removed a large metal hammer. Next to that, she began to line up what looked like long, strangely shaped nails. Ends have been turned into hooks, like the kind you see on a harpoon. I like to hear the screams of all those people that died because of her. And after they've soaked it into your very soul, I'll kill her. I've got plenty good taste, don't I? Who are you? I'm sorry? I'm Mion. Mion Sonozaki. Has the fear drive you crazy enough? You're not. No way you can beat Mion. She snorted and continued her preparations for the horrifying torture. I see that if I'm not Mion, then who am I? You're a demon. I'm sorry? You're not Mion. She was just here. Give her back. Kei-chan, is your brain really doing okay? You're not going crazy with fear, are you? Don't touch me! Damn demon! Give her back! Give Mion back! My best friend! Give her back to me, damn it! She stood there for a few moments with her jaw hanging open, not having expected me to say that. I myself knew that I was about to go insane. I knew it was nonsense to demand Mion's return when she was right in front of me. But still, this person in front of me just couldn't possibly be her. No way I could accept that. So, it's what I thought. She had been possessed by a demon, and is controlling Mion as if it were some separate personality. Just a victim of being manipulated by it. The evil one was really this thing. And it had to be the doing of a demon that's possessing her. When she heard that, she started to laugh. Laughing so hysterically, she started to cough, almost choked herself. You really are a piece of work, you know that? And this very moment, Mion Sonozaki is trying to kill her and you're trying to reject me? I never knew there was such a funny person in all of the world. So if you want to laugh, do it all you want. No matter what you say, though, I'm not going to accept that you're Mion. So how about you give her back? Go fuck off. Kei-chan, are you trying to kill me by drowning me in my own laughter? No matter what, I wouldn't lose to that laughter of hers. I shouted loudly, and I shouted loudly from the bottom of my heart so that the real Mion trapped inside this imposter that I saw in front of me wouldn't be able to hear. You can do it, Mion. Don't lose to this piece of shit demon. You're strong. Show me how strong you are. The tears welled up and flooded down her face. Her hands were busy with the restraints. She couldn't even wipe them. She just let them flow. Please, Mion, listen to me. When did you lose to a demon like this? You're not that weak, are you? Don't lose. Fight it. Fight it. She was desperately enduring her laughter. She pressed one of the long nails to the tip of my left pinky. In her left hand was the hammer. At her side, a dozen more. I could tell what she was about to do, though I wished it couldn't. Even so, I just couldn't afford to be scared. That's why I continued on shouting. And she still laughed. My sides are like they're about to split. Is that all? I'm gonna get started. So be sure to give her some good screams. Not only am I torturing you, but I'm gonna torture her as well with this. Why? Why would you do this, Mion? I wept. Only sobs came out. Weren't an acceptance of the torture. They were tears of regret that Mion had lost to this demon. A small change did occur in the Mion in front of me. Her heightened excitement was draining little by little. By the time I realized it, the one in front of me seemed to have returned to being her.
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret.
I don't know if this was Mion or the display of momentary humanity that the demon had recovered. A long time before, the demon came to live inside me. It was gnawing at my heart, trying to spur me to violence, but I suppressed it with reason. That settled the demon down, and I got to think it had gone away somewhere. As it turned out, I was wrong. It didn't leave me, just gone to sleep. I noticed that there were tears forming in her eyes.
But it was awakened by something very specific.
A sad and yet reproachful light in Mion's eyes. Do you understand? Actually, I don't. What could have given this demon a chance to beat Mion?
And that would be you. You're the one who screwed everything up.
The tears welling up in her eyes spilled downward.
All you had to do was give that doll to Mion instead, and maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't be where we are now.
A doll I got when we had our club meeting at the toy store that Sunday. You probably can't understand. I wouldn't expect you to. But you see how sorts of things started falling over like dominoes after that. That soon it was too much for me to control. It only makes sense that you wouldn't be aware of knocking over the first one since it was so small. But you were the one who set it up. That can't really be me, can it?
If you hadn't made poor little Mion cry that day, I most likely would never have woken up.
A mistake that I made on that day was what messed everything up? It certainly can't be, can it? It only makes sense that you wouldn't be aware of it. Even so, Kei-chan, you are without a doubt the cause. If you haven't nonchalantly given me the doll that day, none of this would have happened. I wanted to say like I just remembered something as I recall that day. Brenda told me all about that, and I thought that I apologized. I didn't apologize to Mion. It'd been Shion. In other words, fuck me sideways. I didn't say a single word of apology to Mion. Son of a bitch. I came to this house saying I had something to apologize, but I never said a word of apology about that goddamn mess. Come to think of it, when I was apologizing for going to the ritual storehouse, she looked a little lonely, like she was disappointed. Why didn't I realize that until just now? I mean, she told me at the time, but now she herself. No, fuck that. The demon telling me this. Only way for a dense idiot like me to be cured. Just to fucking die. Stupidity gets cured with stupidity. Gets cured? I don't even know how to say it. Oh, man. I couldn't longer hold back the hot tears pouring. I simply just cried and reflected indifferently on the taste of my own tears and the taste of regret.
This type of torture is very simple. It just involves me hammering 15 nails on both of your hands at each and every joint.
She pressed the tip of the nail to my left pinky finger. My wrists, my arms, and all the joints of my fingers were strapped so tightly it hurts. I couldn't even twitch.
I don't understand. Why am I hesitating?
Well then, if it will satisfy your demon, Mion. If it will say to demon, do what you want.
You serious?
Compared to how much I hurt you, that's nothing, right? Do as much as you want. In exchange, I want you to promise me 2 things. She was silent. She did, however, wait for me to speak. After you're satisfied with causing me pain, I want you to forgive Shion. She's been punished enough to make up for her crime of sneaking into the storehouse, hasn't she?
Wow, I'm about to inflict some serious pain, and the first thing you think of is Shion?
Fine. When you have your fill, fuck off. Give that body back to Mion. That's all I ask.
I don't believe it. With all I'm about to do to you, you don't even ask me to spare your life?
Well then, how about you promise me 3 things instead of 2? A third to leave me alive.
You just asked for 2 at first. Don't get greedy. I'll give you those 2 and no more.
A shame. In such an abnormal situation, Mion and I laughed quietly together as if sharing a stupid joke.
But I'm a demon, so the chance I'll keep my promise is pretty slim.
I guess there's nothing I could do then. I recall tightening my hands into fists when enduring the pain at the dentist's office. Right now, though, they were open all the way to my fingertips, so I couldn't even grip them. So instead, I tightened my toes. Well, do it. I've prepared myself already. Go on and do it. You're waiting like this to hammer the nails in. It's going to diminish my readiness. She put down a hammer and gently stroked my cheek.
However, I don't mind granting that 3rd request of yours.
My 3rd wish, to save myself. She'd agreed to it?
It's too late to save Shion. She's a lost cause now. The demon's going to kill her. Nothing you do will stop that. Sad, but true.
Her delicate fingers slid from my cheek to my chin.
And your request to give this body back to Mion, well, that also won't happen.
Not true, isn't it? I mean, you're you, right? Why are you saying such sad things like she's not gonna come back?
Did you hear that?
She gently closed her eyes and listened. I heard something. A dull noise repeated at fixed intervals. A low noise accompanied by vibrations. A lot of people ramming the iron doors of the underground ritual storehouse.
I bet it's Oishi. Rina probably called him when we didn't come back.
I'll have to agree with you. Rena can be quite something. Mion grinned like she had been outwitted, and took something that looked like an electric razor out of her pocket. When she pressed the switch, pale blue sparks flew out with a zapping noise. You've probably never seen one before. It's a stun gun. Illegal, and the output has been increased quite a bit. Was that what you hit me with before?
Nope.
Not a toy children should be playing with, you know. You're right. She seemed to want to use that stun gun on me. Unable to move, I felt her press the cold lump of metal to my neck. I heard a roar as though they'd broken down the first large door. The halls were a bit complex, but aside of the door to this very torture chamber, there was nothing in their way. I won't kill you, but I'll have you go to sleep for a bit. Oishi will be here soon. This will only hurt a bit. Feeling the same shock as before, gritting my teeth wasn't going to help much, but I clenched tight anyway. Just as she did when she was about to hammer the nails in, she hesitated a little. I cracked open my tight, closed eyelids.
I'm sorry for defiling Mion.
I made a promise before coming here. Whatever happens to the Mion inside my heart won't change.
You need to forget about her. If you ever see me after today, the last thing you should do is approach me. The only thing that's going to be alive within me by then will be the demon.
What the hell are you talking about? And just as I tried to say that, a much stronger light than before shined, and like television being switched off, I blacked out. June 1983. A string of disappearances occurred in Himizawa village in Shishabone City. The suspect is Mion Sonozaki. She is suspected to have kidnapped 5 Himizawa residents between June 19th and June 21st, imprisoned them, and killed them. Preliminary investigations on the incidents were delayed at the time due to insufficient evidence, but it was resolved coincidentally and shockingly. On the morning of the 23rd, a vehicle patrolling the Sonozaki property heard screams from inside and rushed in as an emergency measure. They secured the suspect's missing young sister and her 2 missing classmates. The suspect fled the scene. Shit. Deep in a detached basement on the Sonozaki property, those who believed to have been used to kill those who disappeared were discovered hair, flakes of skin, blood, and etc. of the 4 missing people. We concluded that the missing people were tortured in a torture chamber, but their remains have not been found. At one of her imprisoned classmates' advice, we continued searching the detached base of the Sonozaki property, which was where they were imprisoned, believing that they were there. However, we did not locate them or the suspect's escape route. In addition, investigations are continued as to her participation in the serial freak death incidents of recent years, thinking that we get some clue, but no evidence that she was involved, either directly or indirectly, has been found. There has been many unclear points as to the motive behind the incident, and those of the Sonozaki family and residents of Inamizawa have been extremely uncooperative in assisting us. The opinion of a local officer knowledgeable about the region is that there may have been a lynching, an internal form of punishment of punishing sacrilegious acts that carried out against the beliefs of the Inamizawa village. It's clear that these incidents are particularly rooted in this region. The prefectural police department had ordered a cautious investigation. We anticipated gaining valuable clues from the missing person believed to have been in prison for the longest time, Shion, the suspect's younger sister, but her mind was stricken by the grave after effects of the incident and she might not have been in a state of mind to properly answer any questions. The psychiatrist concluded that she's in a temporary state of shock, but it doesn't seem hopeful that she will recover today. Only a few days passed since that time. After that, I was rescued by Oishi and the subordinates whom Rena had called in. Aside from my entirely blank state of mind, I had no external injuries. But the most I had was a small burn mark from where the stun gun hit me. As I was having a checkup at the hospital, Oishi asked me all sorts of things, but I don't remember what he asked, or how I answered him. From what I heard, Mion still hadn't been captured. There were apparently a great many hallways and smaller rooms extended out from the depths of the prison. It wouldn't have been strange if she fled to one of those and hid herself. The one fortunate aspect amidst all of the misfortune was that Shion was safely secured. When I last saw Mion, she seemed like she was going to take me with her and then kill me. Probably didn't have enough time though, since Oishi came running in faster than predicted. That was the only real fortunate thing to have happened. Of course, the rescued Shion, despite having no external wounds, now has a big deep wound in her heart. In a severe state of confusion where they rescued her, and apparently she bit the police officers trying to resist. From what he heard, she was seeing Mion in everyone she saw. Hatred, not only for the hospital, but even her own home, and had shut herself up somewhere at Shishibone, hiding her location. Additionally, in fear that Mion would come for her, she would move from place to place every day, and even her parents weren't sure where she actually was. Wherever she was living, even now, Shion was spending her days in fear of Mion's shadow. The police were investigating the Sonozaki's underground storehouse at the moment, since they couldn't find the remains of the other sacrifices. Had Mion throw the corpses into a well? I had a feeling I said something of that to him. Might have been a hidden tunnel, vertical like a well, like somewhere in those underground passages. The secret underground without any maps or architectural drawings, which has swallowed up the remains of Rika, Sadako, and everyone else who was still unwilling to speak the truth. I was brought back to that basement again, for an on-the-site inspection or something, but I didn't remember being of any help. I never wanted to go back there. For days onward, the Sonozakis living in Okinomiya, Mion and Shion's parents, the big name Yakuza, would come to our house to apologize, bringing many other followers with them. However, my parents refused. They piled up many 100,000 yen bills, calling it consolation money. Every day. The amount of money grew each day, and after it had passed 2 million yen, they were even given an envelope containing a letter. I don't know what was written in that letter. My parents talked about it by themselves for 2 whole nights and decided to move anyway. I see, you're moving, huh? When? At the end of next month. I won't even have him in Higurashi for half a year. I'll be lonely. I'm the only one left. She smiled sadly. If I had just said yeah, I thought I would make her even more lonely, so I decided to change the subject. Here's something to think about. That's how I broached it. Mion didn't flee, but had been demoned away in the truest sense of the term. Where she went after she disappeared, that we wouldn't know. What was there? Where she had disappeared to. I hoped there was a hobby shop dealing in imports, the kind Mion liked. In that place she would definitely be free from the burdensome fetters of her family, and live not as Mion, but just Mion, enjoying herself. Maybe she already met up with Satoko and Rika. They must have also been waiting for the day Ren and I would join them, spending all their time doing club activities as lively as they were. When I told Rena that, she smiled and nodded to me. The incidents the Sonozaki family had been trying so hard to hide too were exposed to the magazines from this single tiny scene. Serial incidents of recent years were all pulled up like a long vine in the ground, one by one, and for many days news of it was brought up on talk and variety shows. The shows, which were once comedic and silly, never once tried to touch upon the grim, heavy history that Mion bared. Made me mad to see them bringing this stuff up in jest, but there was nothing I could do about it now. How big an impression would these short few weeks I spent in Yimizawa have on my life? During these few weeks, I met my best friends and had the best experiences of my life. I probably never forget it as long as I lived. As for the distorted image of Mion that is the media that created, after the masses got tired of treating her like a plaything, they would ball her up, throw her in the trash, and she would fade from their memories. As one of the few who know the real one, I must always make sure that I remember her. Beyond any doubt, that would surely become my offering to her. The sky reached so far up, and towering cumulonimbus clouds floating along it. Jesus. The real summer was just before our eyes. Even now, when 10 p.m. came around, I would expect a phone call from Shion or Mion, rather. Now that everything else was over, of course, she would never call me. But it was precisely because she wouldn't call me that I was scared of who would call me at this time. Plus, Mion still hasn't been called. I couldn't say for sure that everything was completely over. On the other side of that fear, though, were my prayers that Mion was safe. When I thought like that, I was able to sleep even with such terrifying thoughts. The lights were off. Before her attacking when the lights were off was something that scared me. However, that feeling changed to regret within 2 days. The moonlight filtering through the gap in the curtain shone on the desk and illuminated a doll. That's right. That doll that I should have given to me on that day. She said it was an import from England or something. It was all the rage, wasn't it? Well, Shiana said the most popular among them were the ones wearing fluffy dresses. After being released from the incident, the first place I went to was that toy store. Everything was sold out besides the thing on storefront displays. I was refused once they said they wouldn't sell the display products, but when they realized I was survivor A of that incident, they immediately consented. Of course, even if I bought it, I might never have the chance to give it to her again. Even knowing that, I waited for the opportunity to give it to her. I waited like this, for the opportunity without it on the desk. For the opportunity with it on the desk, so I could give it to her at any time. A weird noise. A noise I wasn't used to hearing. Too big to be raindrops, and it was completely different from the sound lost bugs make when they ram into fluorescent lights. I must have misheard and nestled back into my futon. It happened again. I'm not hearing things. I definitely heard it. Where was it coming from? I got up and turned on the light. If there was a second, there would be a third. From where, though? I listened carefully. The window. A pebble colliding with my window. When I realized they weren't being blown by the wind, but rather being thrown by a person, I gave it a start. 2 a.m. Who would be at a time like this? I quietly peeked out front through the gap of the curtains, and delighted the gate, despite it being so late, I saw someone. They picked up a piece of gravel and threw it at the window. It hit the window and made the plunking noise. Who was it? Oh my God! I caught my breath in surprise. If my eyes weren't deceiving me, the person was Mion. I threw open the window and looked at the figure again. My eyes were certainly not deceiving me. It was Mion. I gotta pause this recording. I gotta use the bathroom. And I'm back. There we go. It certainly was her, alive and well. Mion pressed her index finger into her lips and made a shush motion so I wouldn't shout. If she hadn't, well, I was about to cry out. She was in a very delicate position right now. Even if it was in the middle of the night, I shouldn't be calling her name out. I waved to her, gesturing that I'll be right over, flung on my coat atop some pajamas, and flew out the door. I quickly hit the brakes just before going down the stairs. Although happiness was sprouting within me, I had that sad feeling that this would be our final parting. So I went back to my room and grabbed a doll. If there was a God, I don't think I would ever thank him as much as today. Even if it would be the last time we ever saw each other, I was grateful for this one chance to give it to her. I slipped into my sandals, unlocked the door, unhooked the chain, and leaped out of the house. Hey, Mion. It's been a while. How are you? Are you doing all right? It's like how we used to meet every morning. She waved at me and responded like she always does. It was undoubted, without a doubt, Mion. The real one. You're alright hanging around at a place like this? I really shouldn't be. Wasn't acting like she knew the police were following her. Almost like she was a patient who had got tired of staying in the hospital and just snuck out. Speech was relaxed, enough to make me think that, and I couldn't help but be surprised. That realization, I thought, was more like Mion than I was happy for it. So what's wrong? What did you eat at this hour? I wanted to talk to you one last time. When I noticed them, on Mion's forehead were big droplets of sweat. Her expression, what I thought to be a satisfied smile, was upon closer inspection trembling slightly, and I realized, well, I can't stay for any longer. A pained note was beginning to enter her words as well, as if just smiling was a feat for her. "You're alright, you're not feeling well." "I tried so hard until now, but I can tell I'm done. It's my limit. They're about to come up behind me to take me away." Her smile crumbled and started to stiffen. Did she push herself this much to come all this way from me? Her laughter cut off and changed to rough breathing. I reached out to rub her back, but she knocked me away. "Are you okay? Don't force yourself." "That's right, I have something to give to you. This doll." I wanted to do this one last thing because I knew how much time you have left. But this last thing... my stomach... it's burning. Mion took a meat cleaver and stabbed me and pushed it tight, took it and twisted it. Ew. It hurts. I cowered on the ground. My stomach was so hot it was like spewing fire. She watched it, took a few steps, and cackled. The last words she left with me that day came back to me. After today, she will never come back. From today on, even if my body is here, a body is all it will be. By then the demon would have taken over. The demon. Oh God. I forgot about the demon. Mion. This can't. I thought we'd been able to meet. This can't. Mion. The pool of blood of my own design is the doll I have bought for her, now dyed in red. So red. Mion. The good fortune of having been allowed to meet Mion once more, and the misfortune that meeting being torn apart before my eyes. Should I be grateful or curse it? My emotions were neither of those, as my consciousness sunk deep into a black swamp. The doll that I bought for her, the blood had ruined it. No matter how I scrubbed and scrubbed, it had needlessly been ruined. Ruined. The sad moon was so white, it looked frozen. June 28, 1958. A violent incident occurred in Himizawa Village, Shishibone City. The victim was Keiichi Marabara, a victim of the previous string of disappearances. At around 2 a.m., he was stabbed in the stomach with a blade object by the suspect of the last case and was gravely wounded. He was discovered when his parents woke up and was transported to the clinic. He escaped death. The criminal fled the scene. On the same day, at approximately the same time, a fall accident occurred in the Kamishiki apartment complex in Shishibone City Prefecture. The victim was Shion, a victim of the previous string of disappearances. Late on that same night, neighbors overheard her having a big fight with someone and informed the manager. The manager used a master key to enter the room and discovered that the victim had fallen from her 8th floor balcony to her death. The room had been torn apart and it appeared to show traces of a fight. One neighbor frequently visited the Sonozaki house for a long time and testified that he heard what sounded like two sisters having a fight, trading insults back and forth. We believe this related to the injury case that occurred the same day in Hinamizawa village, perpetrated by said suspect, and did not thoroughly search the room, but we could not find any traces that would imply that anyone but the victim was present. The victim fell down into the foliage of a parking strip, neck broke, and died immediately. Clothing was deceitful, and the markings that would imply a scuffle. We also believe, however, it could have been an insanity-induced suicide attempt based on the particular mental state of the victim. We are conducting a thorough examination on both fronts, suicide and homicide. Aren't we forgetting something? Only for 5 minutes, understand? Please try not to excite him. Yes, I'll be careful. The door opened and as I expected, Oishi came in. Hello, Maibara. Been a while, hasn't it? How have you been since then? The doctors say my post-operative recovery seems to be going smoothly, but I think it got worse when I saw your face. You wooed me! As Oishi gave a laugh that smelled of sweat, he handed Mom a bag of assorted candles he must have purchased from the souvenir corner on the first floor of the hospital. Excuse me, Miss Maibara. Would it be possible for me to talk to Keiichi for just a few moments? Mom clearly wasn't pleased at the thought of a police officer talking to her son without her there. However, I insisted. Sorry, just a little while. 5 minutes, okay? So gradually, Mom left the left the room, I'm sorry. When she closed the door, Oishi grinned widely and looked around the room. A room to yourself. How I glassed. My old lady always get a shared room, you know. Quite lively. Seems like you're a higher rank if you have a worse disease in places like that. The sicker you are, the prouder you are, or maybe the more arrogant. We only have 5 minutes. I would like if this were the last 5 minutes we ever saw of each other. I don't have any connection to Hinamizawa anymore. This isn't Hinamizawa anymore either. Yes, because there aren't any general hospitals in Okinomiya. Mind if I take a seat? Down we go. This was a large university hospital in Shishiban City. Splendidly urban, entirely different from the likes of Hinamizawa and even Okinomiya. Hard to believe Hinamizawa was part of the same city. When does it look like you get transferred? I don't know. I'm ready to go whenever. Our moving plans were delayed a little because of the injury. My parents already left the house in Hinamizawa, and we're living in our new one. They plan to have me transfer hospitals to be closer to the new house once I recover enough to be taken there. Please don't come to wherever I'm transferring. I really will get worse. You really do hate me. Might just be my job, but that stings. So I bought you all kinds of lovely souvenirs in atonement. You didn't mean to bring those to me. An assortment of cookies for that. Well, you see, there aren't actual cookies in there. He pulls open cans of cookies and... Oh God, I'm stretching my scar! I didn't know what you were into, so I bought all sorts of things. All sorts of cute looking ones, from westerns to comic strips. This has been sort of H-manga aimed at girls too. Don't bring porn in here! Take them away! Go home, you dirty man! Oh fuck! I thought for sure a healthy young person like you would feel a little needy being cooped up in a place like this for so long. If you stay here too long, the only fetish you'll end up with is a nurse one, you know. Plenty of other beautiful things in this world besides nurses, after all. Don't decide what to major in now. Keep your options open. Need to be more all-around type of person. I gave Oishi's vulgar laughter a pained grin. Somehow or the other, I understood. The fact that Oishi was bringing it up like this meant that he must have had something important to talk about. The incident with Shion really was unfortunate. The night I was stabbed by Mion, Shion fell from her balcony and died. They said the police was investigating all possibilities accident. Suicide. The police said we're investigating all possibilities, be it accident, suicide, and homicide, but it could only been Mion's doing. Mion found where Shion was hiding and pushed her down to her death. Nothing else could be conceivable. It couldn't have been an accident. It must be Mion. It has to be. The criminology guys are saying it had to be a suicide, but I'm of the same opinion as you. She pushed her and stabbed you in one night. Has Mion still not been found? That's what I came to tell you today. We actually did find her. Fuck, ouch. Learning that felt rather strange. I was partially relieved that the incident was truly over, and I was partially sorry that my best friend had finally been caught. I felt many other things too. My heart was a maze of emotions. That's not all. In the Sonozaki House catacombs, we found a hidden well, just as you said. We found the remains of all who disappeared at the bottom. I see. That sliver of hope, that possibility that I believed in, that Rika and Sadako were alive, just from the fact the remains hadn't been found, were gone. It was an incredibly well hidden in those catacombs. I mean, it was in a blind spot of another blind spot. A vertical tuggle, dug out like a well. There was a ladder set up there, and when we went all the way down, there was another tunnel built there going through it. When we followed it a few hundred meters, we found ourselves at the mouth of an old unused well in the mountains. I wonder if it was a secret escape route a previous Sonozaki family leader built. Probably was. Maybe it was made in the Meiji era. I'm impressed they built something like that. So everyone's remains were at the bottom. Yep, deeper down in the escape path. A pool of coal tar. They've been casually thrown in there. Fallen from a fairly high spot, so the remains are totally buried. Took a lot of time and effort to pull their bodies up. Did you find them all? I hoped they would at least found Rika or Sadako. That's what I wished for when I asked, but my shadow hope was crushed in the blink of an eye. Yes, all of them. In fact, we also found human bones that we think are over a decade old. We think there are at least 3 people. I suppose it's the dark side of Hidemizawa's history. I wonder how many we'll find when we suck out all the mud. A scary thought. That weight had been pushing down on Mion's shoulders the whole time. We currently identify people who disappeared from Shisabone City decades ago. People are talking about how this opportunity might at least resolve the disappearing people cases that have been abandoned. After a deep silence, he breathed a heavy sigh. Oishi went for cigarettes to pass the time, but realized this was a non-smoking area. So he gave up and put them back in his shirt pocket. It's a bit of a detour, but you know Rika Furude, right? Yeah. My friend. Ever tell you anything along the lines of her regularly taking insulin injections for diabetes? No. Rika had diabetes? I didn't know what he was talking about. We found it in her skirt pocket. A syringe. Destroyed those we couldn't identify the medicine. A bit out of place, so I got interested. You really don't know anything? I didn't know anything about Rika carrying syringes around her. Sonozaki family corporates, or the Yakuza people. Anyway, there's rumors that they deal in psychostimulants. I was thinking maybe it's something to do with it, too. You trying to tell me Rika was a drug addict? No, that isn't what I'm saying. It's strange, however you look at it, that she will bring a syringe with her on her way to get soy sauce. I have no idea what any of this means. My eyes are spinning. I feel sick. You alright? Should I call a nurse? I'm fine. Please continue. Well, that's all I had to say about the syringe.
It was the only thing that personally struck me as interesting. Rika. Rika was sort of like the village mascot after all. Looks like the village is in an uproar right now, between the older blind believers and Sonozaki family who killed her. The three families affecting control of the village is basically in shambles too. If someone came up with them to talk of a dam again, with this sort of timing, the entire village would have been abandoned for sure. I'm not related to them anymore, but I still was. I only said it because the thought about Hinamizawa being abandoned was unpleasant, and I want to end the conversation quickly. A knock at the door. It opened slightly, and my aunt asked if we were still talking. Whoops, we went off topic, didn't we? What a pickle. I looked at the clock. 5 minutes were long past. He told my mother that there was something he really wanted to ask, and she could wait a little bit longer. Is that so? Keep it short. Wasn't ignoring around the fact that she was talking about what a police officer could be talking to her son about. Maybe we should choose another day for this. Oishi, Mion, how is she right now? I just want to hear the answer and get rid of him. Before I tell you, Dad, I just need one thing from you. I just need you to answer something in all honesty. What is it? I want you to take your answer seriously, got it? Say something indiscreet, it could be viewed as obstruction of the investigation. You could be prosecuted. You kept threatening me until the end. What the hell do you want? Aibara, who do you think the criminal was who pushed Shion from the balcony? No way it could be anyone but Mion, is there? Who was the one who stabbed you? Don't make me say it again. It was Mion Sonozaki. Oishi smiled bitterly, then dabbed at his forehead with a handkerchief to wipe his sweat. He should have expected that answer, and yet it looked as though he wasn't satisfied. She pushed Shion and stabbed me. Didn't you just admit it yourself that Mion was the criminal? The evidence that we have that Mion killed Shion is based on testimony from a man living next door. This neighbor is actually a member of an organized crime group. He was Shion's bodyguard. Seems he's a veteran leader in that vein. It was like a parent that the Sonozaki sisters grew up with. That man said this. The noise he heard from next door was just like the sound of a fight between sisters that he used to hear while they still lived together. No doubt about it. He said he heard Mion and Shion insulting each other and heard them struggle. At first, though, he thought it was a hallucination she was having brought on by dementia. He thought that because that sort of ruckus had been occurring every night. But that night had been longer than the rest, and he claimed that he went to her room to give her a sedative. The noise died down when he got the manager to give him the key. He had already decided he'd at least check up on her. After she wasn't answering his calls, they took the plunge and unlocked the door. Then they saw the room was a mess. Since Shion had been pushed over by the balcony, they decided that it'd be Mion, and that's how it happened. He heard it from the other side of the wall. Plus, because the apartment complex is connected to their organization, it doesn't have any residents. They were the only ones who heard it happen. To reiterate, there was only one person who witnessed Mion. Even if he didn't see her, that isn't obvious. It isn't obviously Mion's doing, right? Settle down. That's what I'm saying. It means you're the only one who saw Mion for sure last night. After all, Shion, the other witness, is no longer alive. Oh God, what are you trying to say? I don't really understand. At that point he paused. The fact this was a note smoking completely slipped his mind. He took out his cigarettes again. He lit one with his lighter and exhaled a long stream. Were you really stabbed? Yeah, there's no doubt about it. The smoke he breathed out floated away like a thunder cloud swept away by the wind. By the way, you can't smoke here. The nurse will get mad. Actually, we found Mion at the bottom of the well. What? She fell to her death. We believe that as she was trying to escape to that hidden passage, her foot slipped while climbing down the ladder, fell to the bottom, broke her neck and died. The same way as Shion did. Broke her neck. Well, what? After you passed out that day, Mion tried to escape using the hidden well, but her foot slipped and she died, as if beaconed by the corpses of the other sacrifices she dropped down there.
But that doesn't make any sense. The autopsy came to the conclusion she definitely died that day. She didn't go back there after attacking you and Shion. She was already dead. My jaw was on the floor. There was absolutely no way it could be. Mion was the one that stabbed me. It had to have been her. There wouldn't have been anyone else to do it. Then who attacked Shion and me? Who was it? Someone who was Mion, but yet not Mion. My mind is a complete mess. I'm starting to lose my ability to think straight. Remember how Mio Takano died? Takano? Yeah. Burned to death in the distant mountains? We learned she was burned after being strangled to death. Devastation did autopsy. A little strange. The results of the preliminary autopsy said she'd been dead for at least 24 hours. Since this was contradictory to their panic, they seemed to have revised it to say she died earlier that day. Despite me being an absolute regular of what was going on with Mion, he was telling me there was even more on top of that. I didn't understand the complex things that she was telling me. The results saying she'd been dead for 24 hours, as our old criminologist says. Pretty damn reliable. So, what would that mean? I've asked that question over and over, but on the night of the festival, you were with Mio Takano, weren't you? I was. You met her on the day before while setting up for the festival. Or I ran into her too. I was with her then. She'd been dead for 24 hours. She would have been dead a day before the festival. That can't be. She was alive during the festival preparations. But when you all slipped into the ritual storehouse, Takano was already dead. The origin of all that happened. The beginning of everything. Our intrusion into the ritual storehouse, which I've come to regret countless times. The one who tempted me, Takano. When she invited us into the storehouse, she was no longer of this world. Too many dead people walking around. An incident caused by a dead person, ended by a dead person. They were under the pressure to revise the time of Mion's death to not the day of the incident, but to right after she stabbed you. Probably pressure from the outside to get this incident wrapped up already. I appreciate it if he didn't say a word about this to anyone. He grabbed his jacket that was hanging on the chair, pulled out a cigarette with put out his cigarette with the bottom of his foot, and pretended to wave away the smoke floating. I stayed too long. I come here thinking that I could at least end this incident as applied to you. Looks like you got even more baffling. Absent-minded, he walked towards the door, looking at me, unable to speak out of the corner of his eye. If it so happens that something comes up that you want to talk about in the future, call me. My business card is in those souvenirs before. When that time comes, I'll pay you a visit with some wonderful souvenirs again. Oishi seemed to think I was still hiding something. That I, after all this, would be hiding something? I'm the one thing being hidden. I'm the one things are being hidden from. Hello? I'm the one that wants to know. We'll meet again one day. Take care of yourself. I listened to the tap of Oishi walking down the hallway. I still couldn't return from my state of bewilderment. He wanted to end this incident as it applied to me. What was over? Nothing was over. The incident was still continuing. Then an arm covered in flesh blood came out from underneath the bed. I wasn't that surprised. An illusion that I was seeing seized with fear. I heard a guttural voice coming from under the bed. I recognized it as Mion's voice.
You didn't think I'd grant you that third wish, did you? Silly, silly boy!
Nothing was over. Nothing was over. This incident is far from over. It was still going on. It's still happening. Someone Please, end this. This cruel, tragic, unfortunate, sad incident. Please, end it. That's my only wish.